Hello everyone, Rainer here from Rainier Books. The new year has started. Happy New Year to everyone who I haven't talked to yet, who I haven't seen yet. I have promised when I did the video with the 10 best fiction works, to me personally in 2021, that I will do a bonus video with 15 more books that I read in 2021. 15 books that for several reasons did not make the top 10 list. I won't talk about that too much, but 15 books that I really recommend you to read if you haven't done so. Let's get started. Actually, the first book that I read in 2021, about exactly 1 year ago, was the winner of the Scotiabank Giller Prize of 2020. That was Souvankam Thammavongsa's short story collection, How to Pronounce Knife. How to Pronounce Knife is a short story collection. It's a debut short story collection by this author who has released poetry before the short story collection about the experiences of several generations of Laotian immigrants to Canada. And most of the stories are really beautiful. I like especially the ones where you can see the gap that is, I don't like the gap, but where you can see the gap that is very realistic, I guess, between the first and the second generation of immigrants to Canada. How to Pronounce Knife by Souvankam Thammavongsa. The second book was close of making the top 10 really for me, but then I decided not to. It's a marvel, a thriller with a beating heart and jagged teeth. That said Tommy Orange about this book. Tommy Orange, who has written the great book There 2 or 3 years ago. And he's talking about David Heska Wanbli Weiden and his debut novel Winter Counts. Winter Counts is a thriller. It teaches us a lot about Native Americans. We have a hero here living in the South Dakota reservation, and this is about drugs, about narcotica, it's about murder, it's about a wild and hard life, but it's also a lot about living on the reservation and living as a Native American in the 21st century. And this is also a lot about living in the 21st century as a Native American. Highly recommended. Winter Counts by David Heska, Wanbli Weiden. I can't wait for the second book to come. The third one was a classic, and I put away the classics because some classics actually would have made it into the top 10, but then I decided against them. So here is, in my continuous attempt to read Japanese literature, Yasunari Kawabata and his classic Snow Country. Snow Country is a very slim novel. It's a philosophical novel. It's a silent novel. It's very beautiful to read actually in the winter, but you can also read it in the summer, of course. This is about a love story of a businessman from Tokyo who's going into the snow country in Japan, the Japanese Alps, as they're also called, and he has a relationship to a geisha, to a young woman there, and it's a very interesting cultural study for me to see how men and women and how businessmen and geishas lived together, and I don't actually envy the situation of the woman here. It's really a very difficult situation. But it's a beautiful novel. It's very silent, very poetic, and very well... Every sentence is very well crafted. Snow Country by Yasunari Kawabata. The fourth book I read I have only on my Kindle. So here is a cover that I found on the internet. This is E.M. Forster, another classic, A Passage to India by E.M. Forster. I read this together with Margaret Pennard, and we made a spectacular, not so spectacular from my side at least, discussion about it on the web. So Passage to India is a classic about two women, actually a young woman coming from England to India, visiting India in the time of the Raj, when the United Kingdom ruled over India, when it was a colony for the Brits. And she has a friendship, she develops a friendship with a Muslim doctor, and finally there's the situation when The woman enters a cave and she gets very confused for several reasons, and she claims that she has been sexually molested by the doctor. The doctor is arrested and he's trialed, and hell is breaking loose. And this shows very much the last years and also the relationship between the Brits, the colonizers, and the people in India. Beautiful novel from E.M. Forster, one of his last novels, I think. And you can see how great this author is in every chapter, because he carefully builds a structure of symbols, of metaphors, and of recurring themes in that novel. And of course, there's also a movie, A Passage to India, which is very good. Number 5 on the list is a book that I read together with Courtney Ferreter. After I've seen the Netflix movie, I like the Netflix movie actually. I think it's very good. This is The White Tiger by Aravind Adiga, the winner of the Booker Prize in 2008. It is a story of a young man in India who has killed his master. And this is the story where he actually more or less tells the story of how he got there, how he started there as a servant in that house, and how he finally kills his master. White Tiger is a breathtaking story, a captivating story, and Aravind Adiga is a great author. The next book will make you cry. It made me cry a lot, especially in the second part. The first part is very beautiful, where you can see a lot of reminiscence, where you can see the story of a couple of young lads, as you say in England, young blokes in Manchester, who travel from Glasgow to Manchester to a pub concert, and how great the times of youth are in everyone's lives, or how great they can be, not in everyone's lives, of course, but how great youth and the juvenile time can be. But then the second part hits you like a hammer. The second part is when someone in the middle of his life actually receives a terminal cancer verdict from his doctor, and the story of two friends in life and until death. But it's a story, a book about life, about the beauty of life, nevertheless. This is Andrew O'Hagan's amazing novel, Mayflies, that was not so talked about last year, but Andrew O'Hagan is a wonderful author. He has, actually this is, I think, partly autobiographic, because he has lost someone very close to him, a friend, to cancer, and this is sort of a tribute to him, but it's also a tribute to life. Number 6 is a book that many of you have on their top 10 lists. I realize that now. This is Luster by Raven Leilani, a debut novel from the United States, a novel about a young woman in the US who is not having found her way in life, her path in life, and she has a relationship to a much older white man, and she finally moves into the house of that white man and starts a friendship, a sort of relationship with the mother and the daughter of this man. It's a very funny, at times funny, story that I really liked, but that didn't make it into my top 10, but it's really recommendable. It's a very good read for a weekend in winter. Raven Leilani and Luster, and I'm very interested in Raven's next book. The next book wasn't talked about on BookTube at all. I think this is one of my secret favorite authors, so to speak. It's by Lawrence Osborne. This is The Glass Kingdom. The Glass Kingdom, it is a story about a woman from the United States coming with a suitcase full of, I think, 200,000 American dollars to Bangkok, Thailand, and she is renting a flat in the Glass Kingdom. The Glass Kingdom is a condo complex consisting of 4 towers and a large building in the middle of those 4 towers. The people that she meets, the suspicions, it gets creepier and creepier, and with the characters, with the other characters that she's meeting, she plays I think poker together with a couple of girls, young women, and she suspects that some people are after her money, and there are also things happening in Thai society, demonstrations and unrest, and there are also insects and animals and lizards creeping into that building. I loved it. The Glass Kingdom by Lawrence Osborne. Number 9 on the list is First Person Singular, short stories by Haruki Murakami, the second book from Japan in this year of 2021 that I mentioned here in this video. Short stories by the master. What can I say? It's always the story of older men thinking about, more or less, thinking about their youth, what happened in the youth, about persons they've met, about love that they had, but they got lost somewhere in the loss of life. It's a story. These are stories mostly, I think, from the perspective of an older man, but these are different men in the stories. And I loved the story about the monkey. I have raved about that in my single review on this book many months ago on this channel. So Haruki Murakami is always readable. He's always great when he starts writing by hand or on the typewriter. I don't know what he does. But First Person Singular by Haruki Murakami. The 10th book is Infinite Country by Patricia Engel. This is a story of Colombian immigrants to the United States, and it shows you in a very beautiful way, much better than other books have done recently, how difficult it is to leave one country behind, and maybe even to leave people behind that you love and move to the United States. And it's not always a move to paradise, but it can be so demanding, because here we have a story of a daughter and her mother and her brother, I think, who live in the United States, and 2 children are legit because they were born in the US, and the father gets arrested and he gets deported to Colombia, and he lives for decades apart from his family. Infinite Country by Patricia Engel, also a slim read that you can do over one weekend. It was shortlisted for the Women's Prize last year in 2021. It comes from Barbados. It comes from Cherie Jones, and this is called How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House. This is a story playing on Baxter's Beach in Barbados. A love story, but a story of domestic violence, a story about crime, about poverty, about also class differences at the coast of Baxter's Beach, because there are beautiful houses and there are cottages where poor people live, and it's in the focus it has a young woman who is together with a guy. She gets a baby from him, and she's together with a guy who is very violent, who is a criminal, and who is treating her very badly. And the question is, can she escape from that? How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps the House by Cherie Jones is very tough reading, but very beautiful reading as well. If you want to read something more funny, something more with a lot of humor, but also with a thrill, with a little spice of horror, then I go for the next one. Then you would go for the next one, and this is The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris from the United States. This takes part in the publishing industry in the US, in New York. There is a young black woman who is successful, but she's the only black woman in that publishing house that's working there, until one day she realizes, first by the smell and then by the looks, that a second black woman has started working there, and what she thinks in the beginning will be her new best friend starts to becoming a little creepy and a little nightmarish for her. And this is very interesting. It develops into, comes from one genre and moves very elegantly over into the next horror genre, I think, in the end, a little bit, at least. The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. And talking about books with yellow covers, with yellow dust jackets, we come to another one with a yellow dust jacket, and this is the winner of the National Book Award of 2021. This is Hell of a Book by Jason Mott, which I read I think in November. And this one is a beautiful story about a writer who has written a book called Hell of a Book. He is a very successful black writer, and he is very successful with that book. He's on a tour through the United States, and he is seeing this boy that no one else sees, this black boy with very dark skin, who is starting to discuss with him about him being a writer, but also about being black. This is very much about being a black Afro-American person in the United States and how dangerous it can be today, and really punches you in the stomach in the last quarter. It's very readable. Hell of a book by Jason Mott. Number 14, I read this together with Rachel from Rachel is Reading. This is Abundance by Jacob Guanzon, a man with a Filipino background, writing about a man with a Filipino background who lives in his trailer home together with his son Junior. He lost his home, he was evicted right around New Year, and he has a very hard and tough backstory. That's why he got homeless, why he's living on the streets or in the car with his son. And this is actually structured, the chapters are called after the money that he has left in his pocket. So the chapters have are called $77.41, or they are called $79. And this is about poverty in the United States, a subject that should get even more attention than it actually does also in literature, and a very important debut novel with a very feverish and amazing, I have to say amazing but shocking scene in a Walmart in the end. This starts at McDonald's and ends at Walmart. 2 books left. I have 16 for you, not 15 as I said in the beginning. So 16 books in this bonus video. Number 15 is Intimacies by Katie Kitamura. This book plays at the place in the Netherlands, actually. It's written by an Asian American author, Katie Kitamura, but this one is in the Netherlands, in The Hague, and that's the narrator of this book. She is a translator at the International Court where war criminals are being trialed, and she translates very often those war criminals, and she has to be their voice. She has a lover, a Dutch man named Adriaan, who has a wife, who has a family, but she is his mistress. She has a friend to attend yoga classes with, and we experience her relationships in The Hague with a war criminal from Africa who's trialed, with Adriaan, with the friend, her female friend, and with another friend, and all these discussions, they are very intimate and they have very much to do with language and also with the translation of not only language but also of the mimic, of the gestures, of everything in our behavior. Intimacies by Katie Kitamura is a beautiful book which Katie Kitamura has built very, I think, carefully to what it is. The last one, and number 16, is the winner of the Scotiabank Giller Prize of 2021. We started with the Scotiabank Giller Prize of 2020, Souvankam Thammavongsa, and we end with the winner of the Scotiabank Giller Prize 2021, which is Omar El-Akkad for his novel What Strange Paradise, a novel about a young boy, probably from Syria, getting stranded on one of those boats in the Mediterranean that crashed, didn't make their way to the beach, but somehow this little boy has survived and he's washed up on the beach, and there is a 15-year-old girl, Vanna Hermes, taking care of him and trying to hide him also from those people who want to grab him and want to arrest him, because on this island, which could be Greece in the future, because in this island soldiers are trying to get those refugees and probably send them back to where they came from. But this story is very special. It won the Scotiabank Giller Prize. I didn't like it that much to put it on the top 10 list, but I think the topic, refugee crisis in the Mediterranean, is a very, very important one. So this is What Strange Paradise, and this concludes my list of 16 bonus books of 2021. I hope that you have read one of these. I hope that you might be interested in one of these, and I hope that I see you very again on this channel. Stay safe and stay tuned. Bye-bye.